Hey there, Erin here. Welcome back to the Lisa Loungewear Sew Along. This is for View C, the Batwing off the shoulder knit top. So again, this is a very easy sew and it gives you a great and beautiful, sexy loungewear piece for you to wear when you get your Netflix and chill on. So let's make your fitting adjustments to your pattern pieces, cut them out, and meet me here. Let's get started. So first we're going to put these facing pieces together, right sides together, and we're going to sew them at these side edges here. So I'm just going to pin those together. So we'll be stitching those on that side, on these two side seams here. And now I'm going to grab my front and my back and right sides together. I'm going to pin them along the shoulder, and you can go ahead and pin that underarm seam all the way down. And now you can grab your cuff and wrong side together. We're going to fold those in half along that fold line, and we're just going to baste them together here. So if this is your first sew along with me, I do not press my seams because I'm just showing you construction steps. And but I will always let you know when it's time to press your seams and finish your raw edges. And you can also refer to the instruction booklet as well. So we've got all of our seams pinned, and we pinned as much as we can. This helps save some time versus stitching one seam, then pressing, and then pinning, stitching, pressing, and going back and forth. So we have pinned everything now that we can sew, and we're gonna move all of this to the sewing machine and sew all of these seams. So I'm starting with my cuff because I'm just going to baste this together. We're just holding it in place. So I'm gonna baste it at about 3/8 of an inch. So now it's time to change your stitch length to your normal stitch length and stitch type, and we're going to sew these two short edges of the facing. So a quick tip here, now that your facing is done, this is what will be around your shoulders. It is a good idea for you to put this around your shoulders and test it out to make sure that it is a proper fit, because this pattern does not use elastic, and so this is supposed to just gently lay across your shoulders and give you a nice sexy look. So you want to just test this out first before moving forward with attaching it to your shirt. So go ahead and test that out, and then we'll continue. So now we've moved on to the top, and we're just going to sew those seams. So when you've sewn the shoulder seams, you're going to press that seam allowance flat and finish those raw edges, okay? And then when you come back to that, I want you to open up your top. You'll see that seam in the middle, and you're going to pin that cuff to the top of your sleeve. And then you want to sew that across. And then you'll repeat on the other sleeve. And this way, when we sew the underarm and side seam, since it's all one piece, then we can just have just one clean, even seam. so we've got our cuff attached. So press that seam allowance, finish those raw edges. Once you've done that, we're going to just fold that sleeve right side together, pin it. We're just replacing the pins that we had earlier. Making sure that cuff sleeve is aligned so it looks nice and clean. And since we already pinned the bottom of the rest of that side seam, then we're just replacing a couple of pins and then we keep going. So now we're just going to sew that underarm and side seam all the way down. Okay, now moving on to the other side and repeating the same steps. Just fold. So all you need to do is press that seam allowance for that underarm slash side seam. You're going to press that seam allowance and finish that raw edge on both sides. Once you've done that, finish your raw edges at the bottom, and then you're going to turn up 1 inch. Press that in place and hem your top. And the last step is going to be to attach our facing to the top of our shirt. So we're going to turn the shirt right side out. And we're going to align the facing to our shirt. So you're going to align the side seams and pin those in place. And then the notches you're going to align with the center front and center back. It's just always helpful. I didn't do it this time, but it's helpful when you're cutting out your pattern pieces on the fold that you give yourself just a little snip at that center front and center back. It just helps to keep things aligned. And so we'll go ahead and stitch this in place. So now that we've got our facing sewn, we're going to make sure that the facing stays down. We're going to press this seam allowance up towards the facing. And you can also trim a layer of seam allowance, and you can trim the facing side. Just take some small scissors, trim some of that seam allowance that goes towards the facing, just like that. And you would do that all the way around. And so when you press up your seam allowance, it lays nice and flat and you still see just a nice clean edge. And so on the right side, once you've done that, on the right side with that seam allowance pressed up towards your facing, you're going to sew about 1/8 of an inch to the right of your seam line onto your facing. And what this does is this just gives your facing an anchor to not flap up on you when you're wearing it. And so you're sewing through your facing and the seam allowance layers underneath. And then your facing will lay. Once you press it, go ahead and give it one last press. And once you do that, it'll lay nice and clean to the inside of your shirt. And guess what? You're done. Well, this wraps up the sew along for the Lisa Loungewear View C, the off the shoulder knit back wing top. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that you are going to love your new loungewear set. And if you're looking for more sew along videos for this pattern, then check the info box below and I have linked all of the videos to go along with this pattern. So I'll see you in the next video, and thank you for supporting Style Sew Me Patterns. Bye.